And our next topic has to do with the 49ers joint practices. And it really has to do with training camp as a whole. But I want to talk about, my question is Brock Purdy rusty? Because I would say that a lot of the fans have been making this excuse for Purdy, ever since he's come back from his elbow surgery, that, he's rusty from the previous season. And my answer is maybe a little. But for the most part, rusty from what? He played in February. I mean, he played in January, right?
Well,
And
I
then,
think the reason why he'd be rusty is because didn't he have elbow surgery?
yeah.
Yeah, so he wasn't able to throw until like what, a month ago, maybe a month
Yeah,
and a
but
half
he's
ago.
throwing now. Like, he's been throwing for 2 weeks now.
Yeah, I mean,
How long does it take for this rust to come off?
I don't know, but see, that's a question for Shanahan, because the thing that I wanted to talk about with this, and this will get your your excitement flaring. A couple episodes ago, maybe our first or second episode, I mentioned, this offseason is Trey Lance's, in my opinion, this is his last chance to secure the starting spot with the Niners. Unless something, I think he's going to stay with the Niners this year. There is the offset chance that a team comes knocking with a great offer that the Niners feel they can't refuse, but I think the Niners learned from last season and the whole Josh Johnson NFC Championship and realized they need to have bodies at quarterback. And, in having Brock Purdy and Trey Lance, I think they have two guys that can go out there and succeed in Shanahan's offense because they have history, right? And then you have Sam Darnold, who I think is a reclamation project with Shanahan, and it just makes sense for Darnold to be the third guy. But my thing is, if Purdy is rusty and he keeps having these issues, and this goes into the season, first off, I think the whole starting the preseason is another topic coming up for Trey Lance, right?
Yes.
Okay, I won't talk about that. But if Trey Lance goes into the preseason and plays really well, and Purdy is struggling in practice, there comes a point where Shanahan needs to think, I should start Trey Lance week 1, right? And that's
He's
what
not
I've been
going to do it.
saying.
He's not
I don't
going to
know
do
if he
it.
will.
No, I know he won't.
And that would be unfortunate. That would be unfortunate if Purdy is really that rusty, and if his elbow is still kind of like getting back in the groove of things, even if he's not rusty and he's Mr. Irrelevant. He's not that guy after all, right? Maybe last year was just a magical season for him and he's actually not that dude. There has to come a point where Shanahan needs to suck it up and put Lance in there, because he should, if Lance is earning that.
I agree.
Yeah.
But Shanahan is stubborn, and he doesn't know shit about evaluating quarterbacks. It's year 6, or it's year 7 now, isn't it? 2017. Okay.
Sounds like 6.
Yes. Okay.
Maybe it is 7. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I think we're in year 7.
Makes sense.
Yeah. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Yeah. This is year 7.
Okay.
And we don't have a franchise guy. He passed on Mahomes. He passed on Watson. He passed on Jackson. He didn't get Kirk Cousins, which was his plan A. He said no to Tom Brady in favor of keeping Garoppolo, and then traded up 3 first-round picks for the rawest quarterback prospect, and then fucking doesn't like him anymore or something.
Yeah.
He doesn't know shit about quarterbacks. And he, like I said, he's stubborn. I want to say that Trey Lance had better numbers in his rookie training camp than Garoppolo. But, I mean, granted, Lance was going against the second stringers, but Jimmy started anyway because that was the plan, right? The plan was to have Jimmy start, and then Lance obviously chipped his finger against the Raiders. And then that really, I guess, pushed back Lance for a year and a half. But go back to last season. Lance was the starter. Garoppolo wasn't even on the fucking team. It was Sudfeld and Purdy. And it was between Sudfeld and Purdy on who was going to get cut. And Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. And, I mean, they get credit for drafting Purdy, and that was a great pick. You could argue Purdy is probably the best Mr. Irrelevant pick of all time, even if he didn't play another down of football.
Possibly.
Just because of how many wins you got out of him. I don't think you got that many. Any other team got that many wins out of.
You probably don't have any other Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah,
you probably don't have any other
last year.
Yeah, you probably don't have any other Mr. Irrelevant playing quarterback, starting at quarterback, leading a team to a playoff victory. So I agree.
Mm-hmm. So last season, Trey Lance was in training camp. And so was Purdy. And, Garoppolo didn't end up joining the team until late, right? Because they decided last minute, you know what, we're going to restructure his contract and keep him because there was no trade market for him. If, Purdy, I think, had probably, maybe better numbers. I would have to look, but that's against like the third string Niner defense, and Lance was going against the starters, right? But Shanahan has said that Purdy is the real deal. And if Lance was really struggling last year, or if you had any doubts, why would you go into the season, if you know that Purdy is that good? Why would you go in? Why wouldn't you make it a competition between the two?
Right. No, yeah. Yeah, right? I mean, that's what I said, like, the last episode was like, honestly, based off of how much they invested in Trey Lance and, Purdy coming off an injury, and, a year ago, Trey Lance was the unquestioned starter.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't he getting that same chance this year? Because what halted Trey Lance last year was an injury. It wasn't that he sucked. It wasn't that he played himself off the field. He got hurt. So what has changed for Shanahan? That's my question.
Well, in reality, I don't think anything has changed besides the fact that we just get further and further away from the last time Lance had a full season as a starting quarterback.
Yeah, I think what changed for him was seeing Purdy on the field against starters.
That too. So Shanahan's going with the known. He knows what Purdy will give him, and he doesn't know what Lance will give him. Mm-hmm. And the Niners offense struggled, in the games that Lance has played in. I think it is yet to be seen who will be the better quarterback going forward.
100%.
I guess I have this gut feeling that Lance's upside, once he reaches his potential, if he ever does,
it's a big if.
And that is a big if. If he had a coach that maybe would give him the reps that he's needed since he got drafted 2 years ago, if he had that opportunity to get the game, the experience, then I think he would be better than Purdy. Because what Purdy's better at than Lance is a lot of the shorter stuff. Lance, I would say, is a better deep ball thrower. I don't even think it's an argument. Purdy has been better at leading the offense because he's played more in college. But there's a reason why Purdy went as the last pick in the draft last year. It's his physical limitations. And I don't think Lance carries those same physical limitations. It's just
rawness.
The rawness. And he had to fix his mechanics. And it seems like he has greatly improved those mechanics this season.
Yeah. 1 second. I said rawness so confidently, and then you said it, and I was like, I'm not so sure that's a word. But you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. But if, Shanahan must have seen something from Purdy last season to keep him on the team over Sudfeld, because they gave Sudfeld a little bit of money. And then also, too, you got Purdy on that rookie contract. But if Purdy was really that good, why wasn't he starting all along?
Yeah, I want to say a couple things, and that kind of starts it for me. Like, first off, like I said, a year ago, Trey Lance was the unquestioned starter. Granted, like you mentioned, at the time, Jimmy G was supposed to be getting traded. There was the whole thing with his contract, and then right before the season started, it was like, oh, they restructured. He's staying as a backup. Cool, and he's going to clearly leave the Niners next season in the offseason, which happened. Now he's a Raider. And they ended up keeping Purdy as QB3 over Sudfeld. And, they drafted Purdy, and obviously they saw something in him in the preseason and training camp, which has proven to be true. Like, I think they were right on that, because I couldn't tell you where Sudfeld is. But I think, first off, like we mentioned way earlier in the episode, there are kind of levels to like team building and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the same goes for like developing players. So I think, which is weird and a little off with drafting Trey Lance at 3rd overall when he is a complete project, and when you see a guy get drafted 3rd overall, you don't think he's going to be a project. And in hindsight, it's like, it was kind of obvious. He was so raw. He didn't have, I heard a stat this week listening to a podcast that Tom Brady in his final season in the NFL last season threw more passes in one season than Trey Lance has in his entirety of his football life, dating back to high school.
Mm-hmm.
So that's raw, and there's a lot to teach there. Now, I think that the Niners were limited in their choices in Lance's year 2. I think that was last year, right? When he became the unquestioned starter. Jimmy Garoppolo was coming off of a pretty bad, shoulder injury.
Yeah. He had the shoulder surgery, and he had the stuff with his thumb.
Yeah, and all of that paired with just the uncertainty of him even staying on the team. If he wasn't so injured, he would have been traded. That was the idea. So Jimmy G was off the table. And then it's Trey Lance, the 3rd overall pick, Nate Sudfeld, and Mr. Irrelevant. It's obvious who you start, in that season. It's Trey Lance. It's, well, we invested so much in him, he has to start. And then he gets hurt. And it's like, oh, that's 2 years in a row where he's like gotten hurt and he, didn't play too much on the field. And for me, there's the question of what does Shanahan actually think of him?
Mm-hmm.
What does he see from him? And I totally agree with you. It seems like he doesn't get that many reps. And, we're going to talk more about the preseason later, but I think the preseason is the major key for Trey Lance this offseason. The preseason is where he's going to get those snaps, real game play experience, and to show himself off. This is where it matters. This game against the Raiders is huge for him because he's starting. Mm-hmm. But the thing with Trey Lance or Brock Purdy, and your question of why wasn't he starting all along, I think it's because he was Mr. Irrelevant and he never got snaps against starters.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you say, oh, he's clearly good enough to start? It's, well, he's a project and he's been going up against 3rd stringers. And then you have to, you are forced into him being on the field, and then he balls out, and it's like, oh, he really gets this offense. Like you said, that's when Shanahan goes, well, now I'm seeing this, and I'm experiencing him successfully succeeding. You know what I mean? He's being successful in my offense. Right now, there's nobody else on this team that's done that. I get that, but at the same time, my whole point to all of this, like I'm kind of trying to explain maybe Shanahan's thinking, but all of that said, I disagree with Shanahan not making it a competition this season. It shouldn't be Lance versus Darnold. It should be Lance versus Purdy. Who is the best quarterback to start this year? Because I couldn't tell you right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
especially with the struggles in camp.
Yep.
And you have to bear in mind, just because Trey Lance went 7-1, 8-0, 8-1, whatever you want to call it, knowing like what happened in the
The
NFC
team's
Championship.
stacked.
I mean, the team is stacked. Who isn't going to do well, with those playmakers? As long as you're not calling the game, taking the ball out of the playmakers' hands and keeping it in the quarterback's hands, running up the middle. As long as you're not doing that, Kyle.
I mean, it's the offensive playmakers, but it's also having the number 1 defense in the NFL.
Yeah, no, the team is stacked. They just need a driver.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, they haven't been able to get over that hump because the driver gets wrong directions, I would say. The reason why they haven't won a Super Bowl has more to do with Kyle Shanahan's mistakes than Jimmy Garoppolo's mistakes or anyone else.
Kyle Shanahan is doing this the entire time. Oh, hold on. Rerouting.
Yeah. And then,
like, shut the fuck up.
What Kyle Shanahan does is like, all right, let's just say Jimmy G, it was like a bus driver, right? Like, he's the one driving like the fucking like nice decked out bus, right? It's got everything that you ever fucking want, right? And Shanahan is the directions. And then it's like, the rerouting right as you're about to get to the destination. And then Jimmy's like, all right, we got a dead end coming up. What do I do? There's only, there's only a left turn and a right turn. What do I do, Kyle? And then Kyle's like, fucking go straight! Crashes right into the fucking wall every single time in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other conversation about the Super Bowl collapse against the Chiefs. Like, you guys had it because of your defense, because of the run game, because of all that shit. And then it was like, let's throw the ball. It's like, all you had to do was keep running, and you would have won.
No,
that's Shanahan.
Kyle's like, you know what? There might be something behind that brick wall. There might be an even better route that way. Let's fucking go through it.
He's like, what, we're up 10? Fuck that. I want to go up 24 when you could just go up 17 and win the fucking game,
Yeah.
Anyways, I keep reminding you about that game. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Like, honestly, I'm numb to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It hurt at one point. But like, all right. So you're talking about the Super Bowl we lost against the Chiefs? So literally when we fucking lost the game, I didn't say a word. I just went to my room and I was quiet. I stayed off my phone. I just laid down in my room, quiet, turned off all the post-game shit.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I would do the same thing. I'm laughing mostly because I know I would do the same thing. I would just be like, fuck. I would be so defeated, dude.
Well, I was just like, no, I fucking knew it. It was too good to be true, right?
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. You guys.
And then especially that whole season, they were calling us pretenders too, and it's like, fucking knew it, right?
Yeah.
Dude. And what hurts so much, we had it in the bag, and I had this like thought in my mind. I was like, damn, like all our friend group in like our fantasy league chat, we got a Cowboy fan in there, a Charger fan, Raiders fans, and Niner fans. And I was like literally thinking about how we always talk shit about each other's teams, and then I kind of feel like, I'm like, I want to be above it. You know what I mean? None of our teams, we've never seen any of our teams win a fucking Super Bowl, right? Yeah. And then I was like, you know what? I get to say, I was like, maybe I just want to be able to say that I saw my team win. And then I just want to be able to point to like, all right, that one ring, it's like, you guys have never seen that.
Yeah.
And you know what I fucking saw? I saw Kyle Shanahan go, throw the ball, Jim.
Yeah.
Throw the ball. Run through the brick wall, Jim. Are you sure? We can just run the ball to the left or to the right. Go through it, Jim!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle, I'm thinking maybe we should check to a run here. What do you think of like maybe a run inside? Jimmy, what did I tell you to do?
Yeah.
Pass the fucking rock.
Yeah. Dude. It's too fucking real.
You want to be the MVP or what?
There is a story about Kyle Shanahan chewed out Nick Mullins on the headset in, I want to say, 2018.
Mm.
There is a story that Mullins threw it not to the read that Shanahan wanted, but threw it to an open guy, and Shanahan was cursing out Nick Mullins on the headset. And then Mike McDaniel fucking chimes in and he goes, "Well, Kyle, isn't it a good thing that he threw it to, yeah, I guess he threw it to the running back. Isn't it a good thing that he went here with the ball because
He's like, hey Kyle, isn't it a good thing that like he threw it to
yeah.
the open guy?
Dude, but like Kyle, I think he just wants the ball to, like, he wants to play Madden. He wants to play real life Madden.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he really cares. I mean, obviously you want to have a top tier quarterback, but I think he embraces the challenge of trying to do it without one. And Joel, I see your most recent comment. I'm going to get to it in a second, but I just want to finish up the whole "it is Brock Purdy rusty" topic because I still have more to say. I guess that I have less mercy on Brock being, the notion that Brock Purdy is rusty because he has played football more recently than any quarterback on the 49ers. He played in the NFC Championship game. Granted, he got hurt, but he played in the divisional round. He played in the wild card. He was playing football down the stretch of the year, and he played 4 years in college. His backup, or maybe his third stringer, or soon to be not teammate if he gets traded, Trey Lance, does not get that same slack from everybody. And the last time that he started and completed back-to-back games was 2019. Right? But nobody says,
Wow.
"Oh, maybe Trey Lance is rusty." Nobody has ever fucking said that. Where's the same energy? We don't get that. We don't get Lance is coming off a broken ankle. We don't say, "Hey, he hasn't seen the field in a long time. Does he have rust?" No. What we've been talking about is his improved mechanics and how he looks good and how he's dumping the ball off. And Debo said that his short passes are much softer now. He's not throwing the bullets like he used to.
Yeah. Let me see. I want to see if I can find the tweet that
In the flat. In the flat.
Oh, jeez, come on.
But like for me, yes, it makes sense. Brock isn't up to 100% speed yet because of the injury. Okay, got it. But keep the same energy for both guys. Like, don't be that way with one guy and like slander another. You want to talk about rust. Why doesn't Lance get that excuse? Why is his leash only 4 games before you give up on him? Right? Like that to me is what sort of pisses me off. So, and I mean, it doesn't really piss. I mean, I tune out a lot of people in terms of like when they have non-rational takes. Like, I feel like a lot of people are black and white on a lot of situations, and if there's just people slandering Lance just for the sake of slandering Lance, it's like, I'm not going to take you seriously. But if you have like actual, reservations about the player and actually like have something behind why you don't like him, I listen. Right? Same thing about Brock, same thing about any other player. But just keep it consistent for everybody is all I ask. And do you have anything that you want to say? You pulled up a tweet or something?
Yeah, but I actually want to talk about it in the next topic.
Okay. So to answer the question, is Brock Purdy rusty? Maybe a little, but Trey has been rusty, and he doesn't get the same excuse. So either both get the excuse or nobody gets the excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And before we move on, Joel says, I think 49ers fans will end up missing Jimmy G after all. You know what? No. I I've been ready to move on from Garoppolo. I enjoyed his time with the 49ers, and I was a huge Garoppolo guy. But my guy now, I really like Lance. I really like Purdy. You know, I want to see how the story unfolds with both these guys. Um, but I think it was time for Jimmy to go to a new place, and hopefully he thrives in his new location. I wish him nothing but the best. I Let me tell you, Joel, though, everything that you just said there is a large portion of the fan base that misses Jimmy so dearly. But having Brock has alleviated that for a lot of fans.
Yeah. I think the thing that I had said in a previous episode was not really relative to Jimmy, but relative to the team. Brock Purdy being a starting caliber quarterback for you guys is massive because his contract is so cheap.
Yeah, he
As
makes less than $1 million
yeah,
per year.
as a 7th round pick, that's huge. Trey Lance still makes a lot because he's a 3rd overall pick, but you add him, Purdy and Darnold together, you might have one of the cheapest quarterback rooms in the league, and you have 3 guys who could go out there and hopefully do something,
Win you some games.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another thing I want to say. I want to address this because I've heard several Niner fans say this, and it drives me nuts a little bit. Like, I get what they're saying, but it's just wrong. It's just wrong. And I would like to correct it. So I've heard a lot of Niner fans say that the 49ers have the best quarterback room in the NFL. That is incorrect. That's just wrong.
Yeah,
And the
Raiders,
reason why I
the
say
Raiders
that,
do.
yeah, sure.
Because Aiden O'Connell is a living legend.
Aiden O'Connell, all right, so people talk about how Brock Purdy, plopped his nuts on Nick Saban's desk, said he wanted to be the starter at Alabama, right? Boston Connor said that on the Pat McAfee show. But Aiden O'Connell,
Can I read the tweet?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Save me.
Okay,
Save me
let
from saying something stupid.
Yeah, let me read it. Let me read it. Josh sent this to me earlier. I call it a tweet, but it's post. At BWRIIIGHT, be right. Tweeted, anonymous 49ers player on Aiden O'Connell. In quotations, he walked in the locker room and walked right by me. And I'm like, what the hell is he coming in our locker room for? He walked by me and he tapped Dre Greenlaw on the leg and said, lace him up. It's going to be a long fucking practice.
Dude, I saw that. I was like, there's no fucking way that's true.
Yeah, this is fucking photo. I'm not going to be able to get that in my... Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fucking hilarious, like the way that fan bases will do memes on like players that maybe are.
He's becoming a meme for the Raider fans, but I'll have more to talk about him later.
Yeah. So let me finish what I was going to say. The reason why Niner fans are wrong in terms of the 49ers having the best quarterback room is if you took Lance, Purdy, Darnold, and Brandon Allen, and you took Patrick Mahomes, right? And you offered a trade, I would rather get Mahomes than all 4 of those fucking guys. So you know what? I'd rather have the quarterback room with Mahomes than have all 4 of these fucking players. So it's not the best. Okay?
Yeah.
You could argue that the 49ers have the deepest quarterback room because they have every single player's floor is pretty solid. But their ceilings are nowhere near like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. It's a whole different stratosphere. So in terms of my logic, or I'm just going to hold this logic. A better quarterback room, you just have to line up all the quarterbacks, and you have to say, would you rather have this quarterback room or that? If you're telling me you would rather have Purdy, Lance, Darnold, and Brandon Allen over Mahomes, I don't think the Chiefs would say yes to that deal.
Yeah. The proper terminology is that they have one
The
of, if
deepest.
not the deepest, but
Deepest, not the best.
I'll go out on a limb, and this might kind of sting when you first hear this, but I think the Detroit Lions have a better quarterback room than you guys. I think
I don't
Jared
know
Goff.
who they have besides Goff.
I think Jared Goff is probably right now the better quarterback of all of them. They just signed Teddy Bridgewater, who I think is a solid journeyman backup quarterback that can go out there and win games. And they also drafted, I'm forgetting his first name, but Hooker, who was projected to be a second-round pick. I think he fell to the third round.
Mm-hmm.
And he only made it out of the first round because he was coming off of a pretty major ACL tear. And also because I want to say is 25 years old, but he's still on a rookie contract, for 4 years. So if he develops and becomes their next guy, I mean, that's all an if, but, and I didn't see how he played today. I didn't get to really catch up on that, or if he did, but I would take that right now over what the Niners have, because the Niners have a lot of questions.
They do have a lot of questions, but I would say I would rather have Purdy over Goff.
It's close.
I'm pretty firm on that. I would rather have Purdy over Goff because I think Purdy makes better decisions, or he's shown to make better decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's yet to be seen in terms of Purdy.
Well, I'm curious how
as the better player.
Yeah,
defenses have yet to adjust to Purdy, and that's another thing. Is Brock Purdy rusty, or are his physical limitations finally coming out? Did the Raiders study his film, see his tendencies, and force him to commit turnovers? Right?
Maybe.
Well, I mean, we'll find out this season if Brock Purdy is the real deal. Because if he's not, I don't think he'll start all the games. Or maybe he will if he stays healthy. But, that's just because Shanahan's stubborn and he wants to go with the guy that he knows will run the offense the way that he wants it run. And yeah, he doesn't know what Lance is going to do. Lance is kind of the wild card with tremendous upside, and if it looks like he's failing, it's going to look really bad on Kyle. So, yeah. You were about to say something. I think I cut you off about Goff versus Purdy.
Well, I was just going to say really quick. I mean, I think it'd be interesting to see Goff in Shanahan's offense. That's all.
Well, he was kind of in Shanahan's offense with McVay. But
maybe
Shanahan
he went to a Super Bowl.
He did go to a Super Bowl and he shot in the bed.
Yeah, well, so did Jimmy. So
yeah,
technically, did I would say Shanahan.
I think Purdy's better than Jimmy too, or at least he was last year. You know what? This is what I'll say. Purdy was better than Goff last year. I don't know if he is a better football player going forward than Goff. And I don't know if Purdy is a better football player than Jimmy going forward. But last year it was night and day. Like the Niners were averaging 30-something points per game in the same offense, same playmakers, Purdy versus Jimmy. Right.
Yeah. I agree with the sentiment that, well, I don't know if I actually agree with the sentiment that Purdy was better than Goff last year, but I agree that Purdy was better than Jimmy last year. We will see about this year.